In this movie, we're going to be talking about creating buttons with jQuery Mobile. Now, jQuery Mobile actually makes creating buttons very simple. Here we have a simple anchor tag. This links to page 2. And this is what it looks like. Pretty simple, huh? Now, if we want to convert this anchor tag into a button, it's really just as simple as adding data role equals button here. If we save that and we go back and we refresh, now we have a button. When we click, it changes states to the UI button active state, and that's why it becomes blue. And then we can navigate back to our original page here. Now, believe it or not, it actually is as simple as that. Now we can do all kinds of other things to our button. For example, we can add attributes such as data shadow. And we can set that to true, where it looks like this, has a little shadow around it. Or we can set it to false. Now it doesn't have any shadow around it. We also have a very handy one called data mini. Data mini equals true. Take a look at what that does. Now our button is a little bit smaller. That makes the button more useful in places such as the header or a footer, basically any place where you want a smaller button. So that's how you create buttons out of anchor tags. Fairly simple. Now we also can create buttons out of any form elements that we'd like to. So if I go ahead and create a form element here, and inside I put an input element, type equals button, and we'll give it a value of I am a button. If I go and refresh, you can see that that has been turned into a button automatically. We don't have to do anything to turn that into a button because it is inside of a form and it's an input type equals button. Now the other types of elements that get turned into buttons automatically are any input elements with the type of button, submit, reset, or image. Additionally, we have the button tag. And if we save that and go back, here's I am another button. So those are the types of elements that get turned into buttons automatically. We can also manually turn something into a button by running some code. Let's take a look at that. If I have a paragraph tag, like that, and we'll give it an ID of my fake button. Down at the bottom of the page here, or inside of an onload, we can run some code. Now what we need to do is we need to get that element by its ID, and then we need to tell that element to style like a button. And it's as simple as just typing .button and running that method. If we save this and hop back over, now we have a paragraph tag which looks like a button. And it acts like a button, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. That's great, especially for stylistic things or for creating disabled buttons. Ideally, though, you want to typically stick to anchor tags or input tags or button tags. And if you want to disable them, go ahead and add the disabled attribute, like this. And now we have a disabled button. You'll also notice that it updates visually to indicate that it is disabled. Notice how it seems a little bit less recessed, maybe a little less pronounced. As a side note, the reason we can just type disabled here, instead of typing disabled equals something, is because with HTML5 you can have what are called Boolean attributes. That means that if this attribute is there, then it's set. And if it's not there, then it's not set. A few other examples of Boolean attributes are the autoplay and loop attributes on the video and audio tags, for example. Just by existing, they tell the computer how to behave. Similarly, disabled, just by existing, tells the computer how to behave. Now, if we have a button and we don't want it to be turned into one of these stylistic buttons, we can add an attribute to tell it not to do that. So, for example, this input button that says I am a button, if we want it to just appear the way it normally would without jQuery Mobile touching it at all, we can explicitly specify that it has a data role of none. Because it's an input tag with a type of button, jQuery Mobile assumes that you want to specify it with a data role of button, so it assumes that. But if you explicitly specify data role equals none, jQuery Mobile won't touch it. And now we have a normal button. Although I'm sure we can all agree that these buttons look a lot prettier. In the next series of movies, we're going to be talking about other ways to use buttons and ways of customizing these buttons.